Hello and welcome to the Performance Management YouTube revisions powered by IIC Lakshya. I am Janki Panchal, your faculty for Performance Management. Now, what are we going to do in this? What is the YouTube program that we are going to have this time? If you have seen my last quarter's YouTube revisions, Performance Management, you would realize that we have taken important topic, explained it, did a sample paper, and this is how we took a little rebrush of what performance management is. The same thing we are expecting this time also, but a different topic. And this time we are going to have three different topics that we will be doing in performance management. And all these topics are very important. Like when we talk about transfer pricing, when we talk about divisional performance, or in variances, specifically the operational and planning performance. These are certain points which do come in the examination very often. They are scoring, but there is a little confusion in this topics when it comes to students, especially who are self-studying, right? So my idea for today and for the upcoming 2 days is to make sure that we are clear on the understanding of these three very, very essential topics of performance management. Definitely after that, I'll be showing you how to handle exam style paper, which is 100 marker paper, right? So let's begin with performance management. Now, when we talk about this subject, performance management, we need to understand that performance management is a very, very different subject in terms of your rest of the ACCA subjects, right? Now, the same thing can be said for SBL also, because even its structure is different. But when particularly we talk about performance management paper, it is something which you need to think about unlearning and relearning, right? Too much of logical reasoning. This is something that we definitely need in our performance management. We need to practice every question that we see on any study material. It can be your ACCA study hub, which has got intensive amount of question practice. It can be any other publications from where you can take your questions from. It can be your past papers, it can be the CBE platform, right? So don't think that for performance management, if you do one question, for example, if I'm doing one question of throughput accounting, okay, just a simple example, then that same question is enough to handle everything else that we have in throughput accounting. That will just not happen. Okay. So in performance management, it's very important to unlearn what you have learned. Because typically for any other subject, if we do one of those kind of pattern or those kind of topic questions, uh, by ourselves physically, then it does help us to understand maybe five, six other questions of the same genre. But for performance management, even if the topic is same, the method of doing questions would be different, right? Your two-marker questions can be something which will take more time, okay, than expected. Why? Because we have not practiced enough. So don't take this subject as any other calculative exam paper. Don't take it as, okay, just because it's numerical, I can go over it and maybe, I can just do a last minute preparation. It would not work with this subject. Okay. There is enough weightage that is given to theory in all the sections, and enough weightage, I would say almost 60% of your paper would be numerical, 40% of it would be theory. And when we talk about theory, it's not just the theory that comes in your section C, but the theory that comes in each of the other sections too, right? So first thing when you start this revision, or first thing when you start preparing, if you have started preparing now, it's never too late. I'm still telling you, it's not late. You have 1 month in your hand. You can still do it. Okay. Provided you unlearn and relearn. Don't bring your previous techniques to this subject. Take it as a new exposure. Try learning it as it comes to you, right? It will be very, very, very helpful. Also, when we talk about me, I have taken all the subjects of ACCA from past 10 years. I've been teaching all papers of ACCA. And when it comes to performance management, I have noticed that whenever I see a new question, I don't myself, even after 10 years of experience being a fellow member and teaching ACCA for all these years, I still feel that if there is a new question, I need to do it myself before I bring it across to the students. So imagine if I have to try them, definitely you have to 100% try all the questions. You still have 1 month. Make sure you take all the topics and handle them. Obviously, in this 3 days program, I'm going to try and help you as much as possible. If you all are coming live to watch this videos, definitely you can ask me questions while the YouTube sessions are going on, and I'll be able to handle them. But if you are not, then you can just look at those videos and figure out how to handle questions of the particular topic, right? So, super excited to get you all on board. And I hope I bring some value addition, skill addition to you by the time we end this program. Okay, so let's start with it. First thing, foremost thing is the result. How does performance management look when people are attempting the exams? So, at an average, if you notice, this is just the previous quarters that we have finished. The pass percentage ranges somewhere around 40 to 45%, right? And I have seen, so, on my social media platform or students who are, connecting with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, they do give me something which is I passed or I failed with 46, 47, 48, and 49, right? This part of failing is very painful. I mean, I would rather fail at 30 than fail at these numbers, right? And students end up failing here at this part majorly because they don't understand the nuances of this subject, right? They don't understand what to find out, what to do in this subject, which is somewhere they miss the chance of clearing the paper, right? As much as you might say, oh well, Janki is a little under ambitious. No, I'm not under ambitious here. I'm trying to assure that students, whoever are listening to this video or who are attempting any of the ACCA papers per se, should first attempt to get those 50. This fast 50 will help you achieve your further journey faster, right? So, to get to this point, we need to be assured, we need to be sure that we don't make certain small detailed mistakes. In my program, today itself, I am going to show you what is important to check in a question before you know that it is going to pass you or fail you. Like certain details, certain complexity of the question's requirements is important to understand. And this question requirement is more important, especially for your section C questions, right? Where where there is a constructive response. Okay, so there we need more of your detailed understanding of question, I would say debriefing, right? So coming back to the results have been not very haywire. They have just been on the same stagnancy of 40 to 45%. And the people who fail here in this genre, they are not someone who are underprepared, I would say. They are the same as anyone who is getting 50 to 55 or 53, right? It's just that they miss out on some minute details or they are not aggregately looking at how to pass. And sometimes students don't pass papers because they end up not completing the paper. Time management is also something that I'm going to come to soon. But this is how I categorize students, definitely who approach me on different platforms, whom I don't know personally or I have not taught, right? So, sometimes when students come to me and they're like, ma'am, I failed with 47, 48, the first thing that I ask them is, have you finished your paper? Were you able to complete the paper, right? And most of the answers are, ma'am, no, we missed last 20 mark, section C 20 marker question, right? Which could be a break or do for anyone, a make or break for anyone, right? So pass percentage stagnant, people running between 46 to 53. If you are a resitter for performance management, make sure that what I am going to show today, tomorrow, and day after, you are going to give good attention to them. So, you don't miss out on details and, that journey from 46 to 50 or 47 to 50 or 48 and 49 to 50 is achieved in the December attempt itself, right? Exam structure. If you are giving this paper for the first time, you should know how the paper looks. It has got three sections. Section A has got 15 objective type questions of 2 marks each, making section A worth 30 marks. Section A has got both theory and calculations. When I go to my third day of the program, when I'm going to help you do a sample paper, I'll show you how to deal with theory questions, right? I'm going to show you the art of elimination, right? This is where you can score, but I have seen students struggling in the theory part. Even in calculation, there is an art of elimination, which I'll be showing you in the third day of the performance management class. And yeah, which is on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of November, right? So, very, very important to get out of the section A ASAP. Section B has got three questions worth 10 marks each, and they are comprised of five OT, objective type questions worth 2 marks each. So even this is going to be three questions of 10 marks each at 2 marks. Uh, three questions, yeah, 10 marks, yeah, that's it, right, 30 marks. Or we can put it also as three questions, one scenario or one question has got five objective type question, and each five objective type questions are worth 2 marks, making it 30 marks, so any of them. How does section C work? Section C has basically got a scenario, okay, and that scenario might be something which is not very elaborative, but yeah, it's got a little descriptive info in it. And there are going to be five questions which are based on the scenario itself. Okay, so your scenario might be having a story, and that story will be having five questions, right? These are also a mix of theory and calculations. So, as I said, uh, I get sometimes questions asking, ma'am, is this, it's going to be easy because it's going to be calculations, and it's simple to do calculations because somehow students do love or do end up liking calculative sums because they always see as 1 plus 1 was equal to 2, right? But here, uh, it is not calculation, it's basically a mix of both, right? And here 1 plus 1 would not always be 2, which is where I said you need to use your logical reasonings also, right? Let's move to the third section. Section C has got two 20 marker questions, constructive response questions, and they are a mix of computational and narratives, calculations and theories, 20 marks, two questions, 40 marks, right? So section A 30 marks, section 2 30 marks, and section C 40 marks. Students end up not finishing this section, and which is super disheartening. Super disheartening. I mean, I would rather leave a 2 marker question in section A or section B than leaving a 20 marker question in section C, right? Everybody has got their own way of learning, everybody has got their own approach to the paper. So, my suggestion would be give one mock paper starting from section A, going towards section C. Okay. And see how you are doing. Are you able to finish that paper on time? Are you not able to finish that paper on time? Is it comfortable for you to do it that way? If not, then you should go the other way around. Start from section C and then go to A and then go to B, or B and A, right? So it's not always necessary. You are doing a computer-based examination, so you don't have to, specifically do in a particular format, right? All you can do is simply you can go to section C, right? Finish and score those 40 marks, because sometimes these 40 marks are easy than compared to the two markers. And then go to section A and B, right? So do anything, but please don't lose this essential 20 marker questions. I mean, there is more scope to score on a CR than on a OT. I always say, students whom I teach that with the OT, the tricky part is you are given one question and you are given four options, okay? Or if you're giving one question and you are given a box in which you have to write the answer, right? Now, if you are writing anything which is not the correct answer, all you are is either zero or two, right? You would either get 0 marks or you either get 2 marks. There is no in betweens that comes in your section A and section B. But when it comes to section C, the best part is that you can score good marks, right? It's all about what you write. It's about the steps on the numbers, calculation steps that you get through, right? So I always feel that section C is more comfortable, which definitely I've imbibed into the students to whom I have been teaching personally with Lakshya. But definitely it's difficult to change everybody's mindset. But still, as I've suggested you could start doing mock paper if you have finished your portion. If you have not finished, give yourself a time frame when you want to do the mock papers and start doing the mock papers then. Okay. And then you will realize just go one with the normal set of formats, section A to section C, like A, B, and C. And if it doesn't work well, try from section C and go the other way around. It might be much better, right? So sometimes working into a different format can also help you pass the paper, right? So, look into what kind of combination works for you and then go, because individually everybody is on their own in terms of giving the paper, right? Strategies can be made, but still everybody has their own expertise that they can use in different kind of question papers or topics. Exam syllabus, let's go or run through the exam syllabus quickly to understand where what kind of questions are more predominantly being seen. So, management information and data analytics, identify and discuss the management information system, the uses and controls over information, and big data and data analytics used by organizations to manage and measure the performance, right? Now, this was a topic which was not given a lot of attention some years ago, but since they have introduced big data and data analytics from couple of years, I have seen a lot of questions. These are theory, right? So I've seen a lot of theory questions which are based out of big data, based out of data analytics, because as we know, ACCA is progressive, and this is what the future lies into. It's important that the ACCA aspirants and students who are going to be handling professional businesses and professional jobs in the near future do have a good knowledge and how is data analytics, big data, and MIS, management information system, important for their day-to-day routine of work culture also, right? This topic is seen majorly in your section A and section B, and it is a theory. Specialist cost and management accounting techniques explain and apply cost management techniques. Theory and calculations in section A and section B. This is something that we have brought forward from management accounting, which is the second paper of the knowledge level of ACCA. So students who have done that before might be familiar with this, where you have different types of costing methods. But again, the same technical skills that we have learned for management accounting in the knowledge paper of ACCA is something which needs to be improvised, which is going to be little more, I would say, intense compared to what you did in your management accounting paper, right? Even these questions are, they've got little theory, but more calculations, mostly seen in your section A and section B, right? So this is how the movement is. Decision making techniques. Select and appropriately apply decision making techniques to facilitate business decisions and promote efficient and effective use of scarce business resources. Appreciating the risk and uncertainty inherent in business and controlling those risks. Theory and calculations expected in section A, B, and C. But when it comes to decision making techniques, you would see section C questions are more, right? Section C will be on a higher scale compared to the other two sections, like section A and section B. Budgeting and control, applying, identify and apply appropriate budgeting techniques, including quantitative techniques and methods for planning and control, and use standard costing systems to measure and control business performance and to identify remedial actions. Theory and calculations of section A, B, and C is expected from budgeting and control. Now, when we talk about budgeting, budgeting particularly does not have a lot of calculative questions. So you can expect more of budgeting into the theory part. But when it comes to quantitative techniques, when it comes to, standard costing systems, that is where section B is focused, section C is focused more, right? So this is how this budgeting and control can be segregated. But still, as I said, there is no particular guideline that has been given so far, and it is like it's like an open place where examiners can test you on anything, because there is no particular thing that has to be put into section A or B or C. But my what do you call, my while I was just, my observation of past 5 6 years paper does show this kind of segregation of sections of different syllabus. But still, as I said, you need to be open to it. You need to unlearn and relearn things. So this is just a guideline which makes you comfortable with the fact that what needs to be pressurized, or what needs to be which exam section needs to be looked with which kind of direction. Performance management and control assess the performance of private, public, and not for profit organizations from both a financial and non financial viewpoint, appreciating the problems of controlling divisionalized businesses and the importance of allowing for external aspects. So, this is something which can be seen more in your theory and calculation of section B and section C. Here, we are going to also talk about divisionalized businesses. We are talking about the allowing of external aspects, which things are a part of your mostly section C and section B's. Employability and skills is basically talking about the technological skill that a candidate is required to portray while they are doing a CBE question. Um, CBE examination. So mostly here students are expected to, use basic simple cell referencing techniques, basic simple mathematical calculations that they can do on the spreadsheet, right? So these are certain things that the students are required. Yeah, while I was saying this, there was something that came to my mind that, a lot of students do ask me, because this is a calculative paper, they do ask me, are we allowed to take our own calculator in the examination, be it scientific or a normal? I normally say this, and to everyone who is watching this video, I'm saying this, that there is no particular guideline that a candidate can take a calculator, maybe scientific or a simple, into the examination hall or in a remote examination. it completely depends upon the invigilator and their discretion of how they want this kind of exception to be accepted or not, right? So I normally recommend students to be well versed with the CBE platform, to be well versed with looking at the calculator that is given on the question paper itself, just to make sure that we are handy with using that, we are handy with using the scratch pad, which is also given on the CBE platform. Okay, so it's completely the discretion of the invigilator. If they are allowing you to use your calculators specifically for section A and B, then it's just a blessing, and you can take it inside or you can take it in your remote exams and use it. But if they are not allowing you, then definitely there is nothing that can be done about it, because on your question paper, you would be given a calculator, you would be given your scratch pad, which you can use specifically for section A and B, right? So keep yourself well prepared, so at the point of examination you are not disheartened with the fact that invigilator brings in. Because I myself had few students, even in the last quarter, who said, well, our invigilator did allow us to use the calculator even in the remote exams and in the CB platform. Whereas a group of students did say that we were not allowed to do that, right? So completely depends on where you're giving the paper, who's the invigilator, and what kind of guidelines they are following. Okay, be prepared for what will come, right? Especially for section A and B, I know how much the calculator is important, but try to use the one that is there on the system on the CBE platform. I'm going to show you how the CBE platform looks also in a minute. So we're going to see that also, right? This is a skill level paper, so I'm not assuming that you will be very well versed. So I will be handling that also. So don't worry about that. Time management, so important in your examination. I would say, like, it's a matter of pass and fail for any student who is able to manage their time correctly. Okay. ACCA gives you a guideline of 1.8 minutes per mark. If you are trusting me, if you are going to listen to me, you should finish it in 1.5. Always make sure that you are attempting a question, a two-marker question in your section A and section B for 3 minutes only. If you cannot do it in 3 minutes, you need to jump onto the next question ASAP. Okay, be it theory, be it calculated. Time yourself in the examination. Time is the game, time is the strategy that you need to follow in the performance management paper. Okay, wear a watch and go to the examination hall, or wear a watch and sit in the examination, right? There are some watches which have got a little beeper also. So, maybe look into something like that and get something like that for yourself. When I used to give my papers back in 2008 and 2007, I used to wear my watch and go to the examination halls. Then we had handwritten papers. Now you have computer based papers, right? And it's so important to keep a time on how much time is being utilized to write an answer, even when you're giving your sample papers and mock papers. It will give you an understanding of what you have to achieve and what you are achieving, right? Second thing, when you are saving zero point 0.3 minutes for every question, right? At the end, you will save 30 minutes, and you do need this buffer 30 minutes in your examination. You do need it, right? How as many mock papers, as many sample papers you have solved, as much as you are well versed with your examinations and your preparation, there are 95% of the students who would have a little anxiety when they are walking into the examination hall or when they are giving the paper, right? This is how we have been always handling exams, right? So whenever this term exam comes, most of the students are maybe just scared of the of the word, right? If you have been doing ACCA with me in Lakshya, you'd realize that I have focused so much on the mock papers. 30% of the time is spent or should be spent on the mock papers when we make sure that the students are giving enough mocks to pass their examinations. Because mocks are going to do two things for you. It is going to show you a mirror of where you are and where you want to reach. It is going to also see your time management skills, right? So, super important mock papers. But even if you, when you give your mock papers, when you go to examination, you will realize that you get a little scared. You get a little anxious. You're talking to people, your peers who are giving the examination, etc. So when you see the question paper, you might go little zoned out for a couple of minutes, which might have an impact on you for maybe 10 more minutes, right? So that phase needs to be settled down, isn't it? And that is why this 30 buffer minutes would act as a blessing for you. Whenever you are seeing a question, wherever you're starting from, section A or section B or section C, that is something that you'll realize once you give a sample paper, right? Whenever you are starting a question, look for your comfortable questions first. Look for what you like, look for what you're comfortable with. It's not always necessary that you'll know everything under the sun that is given in performance measurement management, right? It's not always possible, right? So let's be human, let's be real and do understand, well, okay, well, variance is what I like. I'm going to look for mixennial variances. Or, I want to approach section C, but I want to go for a theory question. I like theory question, right? Do what you like first. Get those fast 50s first. Be comfortable with the paper first, right? Once you're comfortable, once you're attempting something, you start producing happy hormones. And when you start doing that, what happens is you try to figure out that, okay, this is a difficult question. I will handle it in a minute, right? So that perspective completely changes. And that is what we are looking forward here, right? 1.5, my guideline totally works. I have used it in my papers 18 years, 15 years ago when, so I started my ACCA in 2004, right? And finished it somewhere around 8. So it's been really long, but yeah, helped me then, helped thousands of students that I have taught so far in my in my experience and my lifetime of teaching. And surely, if you are a viewer of this YouTube revision for performance management, you can get a benefit of it by using this. Try using this in your mock papers. See if it works for you. Use it in your exam paper also. Okay. So 1.5 minutes per question. And there are some questions, honestly, there are some questions which finish lesser or which takes lesser time than 1.5 minutes, right? So that also saves you more time. You can use it later for the things that you don't know, because in CBE exams, you always have the flagging option, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And that also can be used. So now giving exam is comparatively easier than what we used to give in our times, right? So try using it properly. It is observed that many good attempts in section A and B, but not in section C. You should be careful that the time spent on section C questions of the exam is there, right? So, as I said, those 40 marks and that importance of 40 marks is so much, right? That you might end up missing out on it. You might end up not clearing that thing properly, right? But make sure that you are doing it correctly. Make sure that you are attempting section C questions also. Because as I said, section A and section B is little tricky. You either get 0 or you get 2, right? But in section C, there are always chances for you to get marks for whatever you have written correctly. So make sure that you're giving enough justice, or at least try not to miss anything in your section C. Make sure you attempt section C completely. Examiners suggest that you should allocate 72 minutes or 40%. My 40% would be a little less. Of your total time in attempting section C, it is probably more than what you need to work on objective type questions. It is wise for you to practice mock papers. I've already mentioned you to train your time management skills before you need to attempt the paper. Understanding the reasoning behind calculations and how these calculations will be useful to management. Questions which are testing a management accounting techniques will usually try to make it the link between the techniques and it is used as a performance management tool. You must make sure that you have revised syllabus thoroughly and the knowledge required of these tools as exam changes mean that the syllabus can be examined in a lot of breadth, right? So make sure that these tips are something that you are going to follow for your exam purpose. You must make sure that you are applying your knowledge to the information in the question and using evidence from the scenario in your answer. Just make sure that you're picking up the right details and using it in your answers. You must practice the written elements of CR questions in full, as this is where the examiner will test your understanding of the scenario and the performance management implication of the question. Again, focusing on the CR questions, constructive response, right? And I have done that particularly because I've seen students struggling. I've seen students, failing at this marks, and it's a little sad to understand that, oh, well, that was not a lot of marks that students would have missed, yeah. So make sure that you're giving justice to your section C properly before you end your examination. Managing your time effectively and identifying each marks available. There'll be easy marks available in all sections of the exam, and students who answer these questions usually perform well. I told you, look for your comfort. You're comfortable with theory? Well, do all the theories first. You're comfortable with calculations? Look for the calculation. Don't even look for theories. First, pick up what you know. First, be comfortable with what you have. I've seen so many, tutors, educators who have said because you go fresh in the examination, you should look for difficult questions and handle them first. Well, I have always taken side of being comfortable. I've always been assured myself, even when I was attempting my papers, let me be comfortable with what I'm giving, right? Let me get into that comfort zone and then look at difficult questions, right? Because the problem with difficult questions is when you attempt them for the first time, they're going to be time consuming, right? And we might miss out on the time for the questions sometimes which we know, which is like a super pity, right? It's very sad to sometimes know the fact that you know the answer, but you haven't attempted it. So look for your comfortable questions in each section and solve them first. Students who do not manage their time and miss easy marks much make it much harder for themselves to pass the exams. Right? Already reinforced it into you. You must make sure that you are using your exam time effectively to identify any OT questions in section A or parts of the questions in section C that you can easily tackle and plan, the order in which you will answer the questions in the exam. Make sure that you try to answer all the OTs in an examination. Reading the questions and understanding the requirements for OTs. Read the question carefully, and if it is a narrative OT, read all the distractors also carefully, right? This is so important. Read the question carefully. You should assure that you are reading the question carefully, especially when there is a question which needs your attention in theory and calculations. And in all the sections, section A and section B, definitely you need to read the question. What is the requirement? Sometimes, your brain tells you to only read things that you understand. For example, if I know how to find out mixed variance, I would always think, oh, well, this is mixed variance question. Start doing the mixed variance. But it might be that the question is asking you something else, right? So read the question carefully. Take it takes like about 30 seconds, 30 mindful focused seconds to read a small OT question. Right? So do that. Spend the time on that. Ensure you follow the instructions in the questions on how to answer the question as different question types will require different interactions. Constructive response, you must read the question very carefully and identify the instructional verbs. used. Remember, there may be more than one thing to answer within each requirement. You must use the mark allocation to work out how much depth you need to go into your answer. And this I see mostly the students struggling for the theory, you know. I mean, I know it is a challenge to handle theory and calculation, which both of in this question in this paper, both of theirs knowledge, in-depth knowledge is very important. So sometimes students get confused that where to pay more attention. But especially I've seen students struggling with the theory part in terms of the quantity and the quality that they are writing for the answer, right? Um, mostly your 20 marker questions are divided into 15 and 5 or 10 and 10. So we need to understand how much part is theory, how much part is the calculation. If it is a 10-mark theory, make sure that you are writing at least 4 paras, right? If you are looking at the points that have to be elaborated, at least 5 points to be elaborated. Right? Make sure you are segregating information in such manner. If you are doing a calculative, definitely the length of the answer would not matter. But mostly section C questions would have a calculative and an explanation based on their calculation, right? So make sure that you are justifying those things correctly. Don't go overboard on theory. And don't just do the calculation and assume that, well, it is going to make up for the 20 marks that you have been awarded, right? So give equal distribution or give distribution compared to the marks, right? If I'm given a 10 marks question where 20 marks question where there is 10 marks theory and 10 marks calculation, definitely this 10 marks calculation I might not have to use a lot of brains in terms of the length of the answer, because whatever the calculation is. When it comes to theory, as I said, four decently sized paragraphs, or if we are talking about points that are to be elaborated, 5 points elaborated, job done, right? Don't write too little that the examiner finds it difficult to write, award you the marks. Don't write too much that the other questions can be compromised, right? So be thoughtful. If you have too much data to write in the theory in your section C, write the important things first. You can always come back to it later, right? Make sure that you're answering the questions set, not the one that you would like to answer. Yeah, this happens. This happens very often. Students have been so overwhelmed with whatever questions, whatever theory that they are reading, that they are looking, that they try to look for whatever they want to write rather than what is asked. So make sure, as I said, spend 30 seconds, 1 minute, whatever, to read the question carefully. If it's a two-marker question, maybe 30 seconds should do the job, right? But if it is a 20-marker question, make sure that you're spending good 4 or 5 minutes to figure out what is asked in the examination. Does it say critically assess? Then you need to basically critically assess it, evaluate, discuss, calculate. These are the terms that needs to be understood and then wrote upon. Why do students fail? Students' failure to make the step up to performance management from the management accounting exam. This is due to a lack of ability to interpret the calculations performed with a reference to the scenario given. Management accounting paper of ACCA in the knowledge level, second paper it is, and which is a mix of section A and B, so you don't have a constructive response type in that, okay? And the problem is students are so comfortable with A and B and the kind of technical knowledge that they have that they try to procrastinate same on the PM paper also, right? Which becomes a challenge for them. Predominantly because, obviously, when you're moving from one level of education to another level of education, which is higher, the finesse is more, the time is less, the criticism is high. And if we fail to understand this upgradation, it is difficult as a student to justify your position as a performance management candidate, right? Poor interpretation of data. This would be lack of planning and understanding the requirements of the question. I have been repeating, I'm going to repeat it again. Read the question carefully, understand what it is asking for, and then only write the answer. Poor technical knowledge and failure to closely read the question. Not enough practice of the new question types shown in the specimen exams, past published exams, and all the published example questions to ensure familiarity with the new exam format. Poor technical knowledge, well, that can be improvised when you are practicing pretty hard, when you're practicing almost everything that you have in the examination. And when you don't read the question, again, the same issue. Sometimes you don't have enough practice of the new questions, right? When I say practice, that mostly means not practicing your specimen exams, not practicing your past published exams, not going through the published sample questions, not going through your now you have ACCA Study Hub also, right? So ACCA Study Hub practices, that is where we lose out. We lose out on the opportunity to be better in terms of calculations, to be better in terms of meeting up to those marks, right? What is the revision program going to be? Explanation and solving questions based on each of the elements of ACCA syllabus, which we have gone through, right? So we are going to, as I said, we are going to go through transfer pricing, we are going to go through divisional performance, and we are going to go through operational and planning variances, right? So we are going to be looking into them and doing a question based on them. And then on the last day, we are going to do a 100 marker mock paper or a sample paper. So today basically is a day when we try to be familiar with what performance management paper is. The tips that I've given you would take you a long way in terms of understanding what is required. These tips are going to help you build up your strategies for giving the examination, right? Obviously, we are going to look into the three topics today because tomorrow I'm going to solve three questions, one question each on each of the topics that are being discussed today. And on the 8th of November, I'm going to do a sample paper with you, right? So let's begin. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to switch over to the important topics. Right. I've used the term important topic here, but that does not mean these are the three topics that are only going to be in the exam. These are some topics that I have been time and again asked by students, as I said, on various platforms where they can reach to me. And I have promised a few that I'm going to do them in my revision classes. So, especially students do have a little confusion between transfer pricing. Divisional performance is something which comes in your section C. So they might be a little confused in that too. Section A, section B is, where you find it. And operational and planning variances. So students are comfortable nowadays with doing mix and yield variances or, the mix variances in terms of sales and material. But operational and planning, they don't understand the logic behind it. So I'm going to try and make sure that those things are being taken care of here. Let's start with the first topic, which is transfer pricing. The term transfer pricing, as it suggests, we need to first understand what do you mean by the term transfer pricing, right? So transfer pricing. Now, sometimes there are possible that the product that one division makes is being used by another division. Okay, so for example, let me just take an example of making shirts, right? Now, there are chances that there is an organization, say company A, who has division A and division B, right? Division A is processing the cotton to make cloth. Okay. Division B is using the cloth to make shirts, right? So division A is processing the cotton to make cloth. Division B is using the cloth to make the shirts, right? Now, obviously, see, if there is one company, let's say the company is X, not A, X, okay? So if the company is X, okay, and the company has got two divisions who are going to be related to each other. Why? Because whatever division A makes is something which can be a raw material for division B, right? Now, if division A is transacting or having a relationship, trading relationship with division B, the question arises here is what should be the price at which division A is selling goods to division B, right? And the calculation and understanding of this relationship and finding out a price or determining a price for it is a simple transfer pricing. Definitely, there are approaches based on it. Definitely, there is going to be more information that I'm going to put into this, but this is the basic ground. Okay. It refers to the method which determines the pricing of for trading in goods or services between related enterprise or companies. Transfer pricing enables improvements in pricing, brings in efficiency, and helps simplification of the process of accounting, right? So transfer pricing helps company because see if there is a division dealing with another division, transfer pricing helps a company to understand how to ease the accounting process, right? And that is what we are going to see in the upcoming slides. But the simple understanding is when there is one division supplying raw materials or goods or services to another division, what would be the price transaction between the two of them, right? This is the simple basic understanding. Why transfer pricing are needed? Transfer prices are almost inevitably needed whenever a business is divided into more than one department or division. Usually, goods or services will flow between the divisions and each will report in performance separately. Same example that I carried forward in the last question, last slide. Division A, Division B, right? Now, Division A is having a cost, say marginal cost, okay, of $10 to make the cloth, right? Division B is going to use the same cloth to make shirts and sell at a markup of 20%. Okay. Now, if Division A is selling the cloth to Division B at 10%, $10, which is happening to be the marginal cost of the product, the problem is Division A will have no profit, but Division B will have a 20% profit because it is selling to an external seller, external buyer, right? So when we have to assess the performance of individual divisions, it would show that Division A does not have any good performance. Division B has got a 20% growth, right? So, in terms of performance, Division A or people in Division A might be demotivated, and Division B might be motivated, right? Now, the whole idea here is that transfer pricing is a price that is evolved, that is calculated in such a manner that division A is not demotivated and division B also remains motivated, right? So there has to be certain kind of performance valuation that has to be given to division A also to assure that it is in the right direction, to assure that it is making up for the motivation that its employees do require, right? The accounting system will record goods or services leaving one department and entering the next. And some monetary value must be used to record this. This value is called the transfer price. I've just taken a small example here, which is shown in table 1, in which division A makes components for a cost of $30. Okay. And these are transferred to division B for $50. Division B buys the components in at $50, incurs own cost of 20, and then sells it outside at 90. So 30's product sold at 50 to division B, 50 plus 20 of his own cost, and then sold outside at 90, right? So how does this look now? See, the transfer price for the first one is zero, obviously, because they are manufacturing it. Division B, definitely the transfer price is what Division A is going to charge it. The cost that Division A incurs to produce the product is 30, and the profit that they are charging is 20. Selling it to Division B at 50, Division B is using that at its transfer price because obviously it is getting it from the division. Own cost 20, and then the divisional profit markup is 20. So you have a transfer price of 90. If you see this question, division A and division B both are enjoying profits. The performance, if it is assessed by an external performance measurer, they would realize that division A is also being motivated, division B is also motivated, and both of them are earning profits, right? The impact of transfer price can seriously affect the reported divisional performance, the motivation of divisional managers, and subsequent decisions made, like performance evaluation, performance related pay. These are certain things which are based on performance. And that's why I said if Division A is selling goods to Division B, and not earning anything or not earning any profits on it, unfortunately they don't be as motivated as expected. They are not as enthusiastic as expected, because the performance evaluation for division A would be less or maybe nil, and obviously if there is any performance related pay, then that is not coming forward to them, right? Let us now consider the general principles of setting a transfer price. And there are two approaches which should be recognized, the market based approach and the cost based approach. Now, market based approach is a very simple approach. Okay, I'll just explain you. If division B is getting raw materials from external supplier at say, whoa, look at my ant, at say $70 per meter. Okay, this is the same example of my shirt. Okay, then division B should also give the same amount to the division A, right? If it's me and you, if you are division A, I am division B, if I am buying something from external supplier at $70, And if you produce exactly the same goods or services, I might as well purchase it from you only at $70, right? Simple market-based approach. But the market-based approach has got little issue here. I'll explain you. Division A and Division B. Okay. Now, if Division B is taking it at $70 from externals, this $70 do include selling and distribution, marketing, advertisements, promotions, packaging, right? When Division A is sending these things to Division B, do they have to do marketing, advertising, promotion? No. They might have to do delivery, they might have to do packaging, but that might be something which can be negligible also, right? So, those things which are included in this value when Division B is purchasing from external supplier does not come when an internal division is giving it to them. And technically, if such a high margin or profit is given to someone who is in Division A, which is also a part of the same organization or a company, the overall costing, the overall pricing of the company becomes superficial, not real, right? So market-based approaches does have these kind of details or disadvantages which are based on it. When it comes to cost-based approaches, where there is a market for intermediate products, cost-based approach is something which is based on minimum transfer price. When considering the minimum transfer price, look at transfer pricing from the point of view of the selling division. The question we ask is, what is the minimum selling price that the selling division would be prepared to sell for? Note that this will not necessarily be the same as the price that the selling division is would be happy to sell for, although as you will see, if it does not have spare capacity, it is the same. The minimum transfer price that should be set if the selling division is to be happy is marginal cost plus opportunity cost, right? As I said earlier, if the minimum transfer price is the basic costing that Division A has incurred to manufacture the goods or services, if that is the only thing that is given to them, they would not be happy. They would not be satisfied, right? So it is important that Division B gives them a price which includes marginal cost and opportunity cost. People who have lost track on these two costs, I'll just give you a quick information on them. Marginal cost is the cost of any extra goods that are being made. It does not include fixed cost. And opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative that has been let go, right? So that is one thing, minimum transfer price, but the division who is transferring it to the other division might not be happy with it. And hence, marginal plus opportunity cost is the bare minimum that should be paid. Spare capacity. Now, there are two terms that we need to understand before we understand spare capacity, and that is slack and surplus. Slack pricing, slack price and surplus price. So, slack is something where the demand is more, but organization can't supply, right? For example, I have got five tailors. I'm a I'm still in the same example of cotton and shirts and etc. Right? So I've got five tailors who can work 8 hours each day for 5 days to produce 500 shirts, right? Now, if I get an order of 1,000 shirts, right? I cannot technically double this because see, tailors won't be doubled, right? Hours, if I give 8 more hours, that means if 16 hours a tailor will work, then he's not going to produce well, right? Even after that, the 1,000 shirts might not be fulfilled, the demand might not be fulfilled. That situation is called a slack. Surplus is something where you have a capacity to make 500 shirts, but because of not enough demand, your supply is higher, and that's why there are extra goods that are being produced. Here, the example of spare capacity is given. Okay, spare capacity is where the division A is going to produce extra. Okay, now when does this happen? Sometimes the machinery has got, some machineries have got a particular setup that they will produce 1,000 units or 2,000 or 10,000 units in one go, right? And this is how the spare capacity would increase. For example, there is a machinery who only produces or gives output in terms of thousands. Okay. So if there is an order of 15,000 units, I can either make 10,000 or make 20,000, right? Obviously, I want to fulfill my external demand. So I'm going to make 20,000 units, right? So those 5,000 extra units that I've made is becoming our spare capacity, right? And when a company has got already spare capacity, that is where it does not have a position to ask for opportunity cost. As far as those 5,000 extra units are being sold, being utilized, a bare minimum income is generated, it should be happy, right? So, spare capacity is the capacity where the opportunity cost will be zero. If there is no spare capacity, if the seller doesn't have any spare capacity or it does not have enough spare capacity to meet all the external demand and internal demand, then the next question to consider is how can the opportunity cost be calculated? Given that opportunity cost represents contribution foregone. If there is spare capacity, no opportunity cost. But if there is no spare capacity, you're making exactly how much is required and you have external demand for them, then definitely opportunity cost will come into picture. It will be the amount required to or in order to put the selling division in the same position as they would have been if they had sold outside the group. Maximum transfer price. When we consider the maximum transfer price, we are looking at transfer pricing from the point of view of the buying division. The question we are asking is what is the maximum price that the buying division would be prepared to pay for the product? The answer to this question is very simple, and the maximum price will be the one that the buying division is also happy to pay, right? So, when we talk about maximum transfer price, it's a both way relationship, right? How much division B can afford to pay to division A? How much division A can afford to sell to division B, right? And when there is a mutual understanding between both, maximum transfer price occurs. Many large, okay, that's about the transfer pricing story. Uh, if we understand the theory of it, I think it's pretty clear. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a sum based on transfer pricing, which will give you an understanding of how to calculate it. Because I've seen that the theory is simple for transfer, but the calculation sometimes goes little tricky for the students, right? But transfer pricing do get questions, very less, but they do get questions on theory also. So we should be well versed with both. If you're getting transfer pricing in your section C, you might get a 10 marker question where you have 5 marks calculation and 5 marks of explanation, right? Where you need to logically explain why the transfer price of one division is given to another, right? And what's the logic behind it. And to know and explain it properly, it's important to understand what goes in the transfer pricing journey, right? Just going to go to the next topic now. Divisional performance evaluation. Now, when we talk about divisional performance evaluation, something which is related to the same logics of divisions that we have used in transfer pricing, it basically means that how individual divisions should be evaluated in terms of the performance that they are going to show. Many large organizations have divisionalized structures. In these organizations, a vital part of the head office management role is measuring the performance of divisions and of divisional managers. In this context, it is important to recognize the distinction between divisional performance and managerial performance. An important question is to extent to which managers' performance should be evaluated in relation to the factors that they can control rather than overall performance of their divisions. In recent years, we have seen that companies, organizations have given more importance to the human resource, to the expertise that they have in the organization than the output that they produce. Because now they have realized that it's not always the fault of the division or the department that output goes against their expectations. Because there are some of the uncontrollable forces that are going to reduce the chances of getting the desired results, right? Now, if we talk about some unforeseen forces, uh, the classic example can be the COVID-19 and the impact it had on all the companies and definitely all the divisions, right? There are organizations who never had seen a growth, have seen a growth, like the medical industries, cleaning departments, or, as simple as your face mask, right? Face masks were only used by medical teams for certain jobs, right? But in COVID 19, the sale of face masks was exponentially high, like very high, right? Nothing controllable by the division managers. At the same time, when we talk about anything else, like going into a restaurant in 2020 was impossible, right? Similarly, in day-to-day lifestyle also, organizations does not always have to make sure that the division is always have to make sure that the divisions are making or getting the kind of reward that is directly related to their work rather than something which is indirectly related to their work, right? A very simple thing here, I'll tell you. For example, there are certain desired results that are expected by my head office, which is not sitting in the same area where I am. Okay, for example, the head office is in the US. Okay, and I am sitting in, for example, Dubai, right? Now, the head office is expecting me to have X amount of sale in a X amount of month, say a month of Ramadan, right? And it's a restaurant. Now, that is impossible for a for an Arabic country to have a lot of restaurant food sales in the afternoon time on the days of Ramadan, right? People don't eat, they fast, they observe fasting throughout the day, right? If the US, the company sitting, the head office sitting in the US does not understand the nuances of different countries and their, religious beliefs and their culture and, the way they function, it becomes impossible for the managers sitting in the UAE to enjoy the benefits that they desire, to enjoy the performance motivation that they desire. Divisional performance evaluation focuses on controllable and uncontrollable things that are in the hands of the managers or the departments or the divisions, and things which are not in their hand. A department or a division or a manager should only be tested, should only be compared with what they can achieve, which is in their hand, rather than which is not in their hand. Because if that happens, the division or the department or the manager becomes demotivated for something which is not his or her fault, also. Another key question relates to the choice of measures, which are used to assess performance. Here, we are going to look at return on investment and residual income. These are the two tools, two measures commonly used for finding out the divisional performance. Return on investment measures operating profit as a percentage of the assets employed in the division. The ROI needs to be greater than the cost of capital for a division to be profitable in the long term. The formula is traceable or controllable profit divided by traceable controllable investment. If the manager's performance is being assessed rather than the divisions, ROI should be based on the controllable figures and not on traceable ones. The term used here is controllable, right? Mentioned earlier, whatever is in their hand should be expected. Residual income is the income that the division is earning less the cost of capital charged on the assets employed in the division. So residual income is equal to controllable profits minus imputed interest on controllable investment. Again, here traceable might not be appropriate. Controllable is something which can be appropriate. Imputed interest is calculated by multiplying the controllable or traceable investment by the cost of capital. This is typically the WACC, weightage average cost of capital. However, instead of using WACC, a company might also set a target to return on capital provided. In such a situation, a positive RI will indicate division is generating a level of return greater than the target. The term residual income or the term return on investment are very self explanatory, right? And especially when we are using controllable values in it, it is surely going to show that the investment that is getting a return is controllable by the particular division or the department head. And same goes for the residual income also. Return on capital employed. As our focus here is on divisional performance measurement, we are using looking at ROI rather than ROCE. The two are very similar and would be more appropriate for looking at the company as a whole or as a division when treating it as if we are an external company or against an external company. But in this case, we would use divisional profits. Like ROCE is profit before interest and tax divided by the capital employed, right? But for divisional performance, we particularly use ROI, return on investment, and residual income. ROC obviously where total assets are minus the current liabilities, and ROC should be greater than the cost of capital for a company to be profitable over the long term period. The last topic is planning and operational variances. Right now, this is also if you notice, all these three topics are related or focusing on divisions or individuals or a growth which is controllable. Planning and operational variances also work in the same direction where we use revised budgets. Now, what happens whenever a budget is being made, whenever an expectation is being set, it's not necessary that it is going to go as per the desired expectations. Planning and operational variances are something which does bring to the company's attention that what can be achievable and the managers can be responsible for, and what cannot be achievable and the managers cannot be responsible for. Operational variance compares actual performance to the revised budget, and these variance indicates good or bad operational performances. Planning variance compares the two budgets and highlights planning and budgeting errors. Planning variance or revision variance are variances which have arisen because of inaccurate planning or faulty standards. Planning variance compares an original standard with a revised standard that should or would have been used if the planner should you know in advance what is going on or what is going to happen. For example, I'll just give you a little example for planning variance. When I planned so for example, same into my shirt example, okay? When I planned to produce 1,000 shirts, I took a quotation from the supplier for the raw material, that is shirts. Now, suppose the raw materials cost was $10 per meter, okay? So I made my budget based on $10 per meter, for example. When I actually produced, I wanted raw material, so I ordered raw material, which is the first thing that you do before you start the manufacturing. You realize that the supplier's cost has increased to $12 per meter. If that happens, what is going to happen to the budget? Is going to increase, right? Now, was the increase in the supplier's price of the raw material in the hand of the manager? No, right? So, here, planning variance or revision variance shows that this is what the company planned, this is what is the revised budget, and this is what actually they have received, right? It shows that if there is a revision, which is very obvious in organizations, when you are taking the quotation and when you actually start the production, it might be a time lag between them. And that time lag might deal with the increase or decrease in the price of the raw materials, right? Now, when we take an example of cloth, it's not such a volatile raw material, but when we take an example of things which are imported from outside, then definitely there is currency fluctuation, which can fluctuate or revise the values. So, all these things are interrelated, and all these things are going to help an organization understand what is in the hands of the organization that they can assess their manager's performance with and what is not. Operational variance compares actual budget to revised standard budget. It is in the control of the management and they should be held responsible. Planning, as I said, can't do anything, right? Operational should be responsible. If a manager is given 10 laborers to do X amount of job, now the laborers are there, the job is there. If they cannot meet up to that standard, obviously it is something that is an inefficiency from the manager's point of view. The manager isn't responsible for planning variance, but they are definitely responsible for the operational variance, right? Planning is something which has got external influence into it. Operational does not have. In the examination, I have seen questions on planning and operational variance where the calculation is simple, but explaining these things in the examination, which is somewhere around 5 to 10 marks, is not justified by the students pretty well, right? So, to knowing the theory of this is also super important. The formula here is actual sales quantity into standard margin minus revised budgeted sales into standard margin, which gives you a market share variance or an operational variance, which is something for which the company is responsible. Revised budgeted sales into standard margin minus original budgeted sales into standard margin is going to give you the market size variance, which is a planning variance, but it is not something that is controllable or the manager should not be responsible for it. That brings us to the end of the theory part. Tomorrow, I am going to do questions based on each one of them. Okay, so based on transfer pricing, based on divisional performance, and based on planning and operational variances, right? And day after tomorrow, which is on the 8th of November, I am going to do a sample paper. I'm not going to actually solve it, but I'm going to show you how to approach the sample paper or how to approach a 100 marker paper, right? I showed you what is to be done. I showed you the topics that we are going to do. And the last thing that I want to do it today is I want to show you the CBE platform and the ACCA study hub of how efficiently you can use both these platforms. So give me 1 minute while I switch on the screens. Right. So this is how the ACCA Study Hub looks. If you have not accessed this information that is available to all the ACCA students, I would strongly recommend that log into your ACCA Study Hub. You can simply log into your My ACCA. On the left side, you can click on My Qualifications. Then on the right side, you have those lists where you can also go to the CPE platform, book your exams, etc. I think the second last is the second last is your ACCA Study Hub. So you click on the ACCA Study Hub. Okay. I have been using right now. I've been using one of my students' ACCA ID. So otherwise, as a fellow member, I cannot access my Study Hub by myself. So I've been using his ID, for showing it to you. These are the chapters that are being given by ACCA as a part of the study material. But I want you to more focus on the OTs that are given. This, as I said, there's a lot of practice that is available on the practice platform. Please use it, right? Before you attempt a proper sample paper, try to solve these questions. You still have 1 month in your hand. The OTs should not take you long. They are for 18 chapters, right? So you use them. And then you have big questions also, constructed response questions also. Use them correctly. Make sure that you're properly applying them everywhere, right? So this is how you can utilize this factor. There is also one more thing. These quizzes are pretty, you can just start it from here. Just a second. Yes, if you want to, for example, take a quiz which is of 16 questions for relevant cost analysis, you can just start your practice from here. Try to solve each questions and go to the end. It's a beautiful platform. You can see that your questions are timed and how much total time you're taking. So like on this question and totally answering 16 questions, it gives you a very good time management skill. So use this properly. And once you're done with this, you can definitely go to the CBE platform, which is again from the MyACC only, and look for performance management, ACC official resources. I'm just going to pick up one of the specimen papers. Yeah, let's just pick the specimen paper. So a specimen paper or any paper that is on the ACCA Study Hub, which is a 100 marker, use that to see how you are progressing in your 100 marker paper. And it gives you an actual feel of the examination. There are different questions, and the specimen paper will be solved by me in the class also. So that'll be a good part. And you can always go through separate. So, for example, as I said, some students are comfortable with section C, right? So they would like to go through section C. And if I want to go to section C directly, I can go to the small navigation button, which is right now behind my back, because I'm sitting where the screen should be looking at the navigation. So you'll be thinking, how is she doing it? So, when you open your own ACCA CBE practice platform, you will see that, just behind my back, that is previous, next, and navigator. I was just clicking on the navigator and then selecting what I want to do. And as I said, for example, if you just want to start directly from section C, definitely you can do it. Okay, and write the answers. This is a variance question, and if I'm comfortable with variance, I would just attempt this first, grab my 20, and then look forward for whatever I know or don't know. It doesn't let you move to a next question unless you completely scroll to the first one. Lovely. We have got a planning and operational variance question worth 9 marks, which I'm going to do on the 8th of November. So, my one of my important topics that I'm going to explain tomorrow and I did today will also be covered in the sample paper. Then you go to the next question if you desire, and then you have financial performance that you analyze and do the same in terms of the risk and the relevant data, right? If I want to start with section C, again, I go to the navigator. And for example, there is any question which I want to come back to later on, right? So I can always flag it. Let me just take this up here. I can flag it, right? If I want to flag certain questions, I can just flag them in. close it up, right? So this is how you deal with your paper. This is how you use your CBE platform. Again, repeating, make sure you listen to my first 45 minutes properly to understand how to strategically give the performance management paper. Use the ACCA Study Hub practice part. It's got a lot of practice that you can do individually, chapter wise or topic wise, and definitely in the CR also. Do the CVE platform questions. If you get access to any other past questions also, please do them. They're going to be superb insight for you, right? So with this, we end up today's class. I'm going to meet you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Indian Standard Time. If you have any friends who are doing PM, you can ask them to join. This is a free lecture powered by Indian Institute of Commerce, Lakshya. And we are also doing the same program in Hindi on the same day when the English happens, and which is in the afternoon at 2 p.m. So, if anybody wants to take classes in Hindi, that is also available at 2 p.m. 6th November, 7th November, and 8th November, right? So, on that note, I leave some practice to you, and I hope that the first day has brought that spark back into you so you can study well, prepare well, and focus well. All the best. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bye bye.